Hi, this is Sam Michelle. Had a somewhat decent rest. I'm going to turn off the screen now because to save bandwidth. So, I used to record in my diary daily. I used to record in my diary daily, like I don't know, insights and stuff, and delusions, of course. At one point, fairly recently, associated with the second detention, the second wrongful detention, I believed there was a pole flip, an actual geophysical pole flip that I believed that somehow I had done. I don't know if anyone remembers the film Lathe of Heaven. It's a Canadian version of the book by Ursula Le Guin, I think. I'm not sure about that, but my memory is failing me today. Part of the reason I turn on the recorder is because I try to remember my cousins, Sam and Dottie, and I don't. There was an event that supposedly happened. I just have a recollection of about the event, but not the actual event. And so my memories are going, back and forth. Sometimes I can remember things very clearly, and sometimes it's like a recollection of the memory, like I just reported. So and I believe it has something to do with the concussions. Hopefully we'll get to the States at some point very soon, hopefully, and, get a CT scan and try to figure out what's wrong with Salvatore. It's not just memory problems and cognition problems. I've heard voices for the last, I don't know how long. I really can't recollect. I can't remember how long I've heard voices for. Sometimes they say mean things like "fuck you," Sammy Jammy. Like this morning. Well, I can't remember. I can't remember what they said. Like I said, I have memory issues and cognition issues. Sometimes I have difficulty completing a sentence, or doing something even simple like multiplying or dividing numbers, like long division, for instance, which is, there's a procedure for, like finding the square root of something. As far as I know, there's a procedure. I know there's a procedure for finding like the square root of 2, but what it is, I don't know, because I don't remember. There's a lot of things I don't remember. I remember how to do long division. You try to find a multiple of the left side that goes inside the, the thing being divided, and then you subtract that maximum multiple, right? And then you go from there and continue to the right until you get to the decimal point, and then you can find potential fractions, of that long division, whether rational or not. Well, it's going to be a rational number, but unless you're dividing by pi, of course. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about regular long division. But I had a problem with that recently, and trying to, there's this thing called Hope's prime finding algorithm, and it may or may not be valid. Primes are scattered, not that I care, I really don't. Seems like mathematicians care about the most inane things, like prime distribution and prime numbers. Whether it's relevant for, what do you call it, combinatorics and what else, like cryptology or whatever, cryptography, however you pronounce it. Prime numbers are evidently useful for that kind of stuff, but I'm not really interested in that. Anyways, at one point, because Hope's irrational is very unique, it's one of the easiest irrational numbers to generate, because it's got a repeating pattern of zeros. You write it down in binary, 0.1, and then 1 0, and then another 1, and then 2 zeros, and another 1, and then 3 zeros, and another 1, and 4 zeros, and so on. So it's very easy to write down in binary format. Converting that to decimal is something else. You either use a calculator or figure out how to generate the sequence, which is what I did. It took me a while to figure that out. It's like I think a difference equation. Anyways, I didn't turn on the recorder to talk about Hope's irrational, but anyways, I can. Doesn't matter. It doesn't. It matters to me, but Hope's irrational because it's named after my daughter. One of the few things I can pretend, at least pretend, that I'm, that I care, at least, which I obviously do. But the thing is, I can't show her face to face because of the circumstances. I'm homeless, and her mother thinks I'm crazy, which, what do you call it? In reality, maybe I'm not any more than anybody else. It's just the voices don't help, typically. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It just depends. Well, when I was in, the last time I was in Montepiece trying to work on that, Hope's prime finding algorithm, based on the number named after her by me, her father. I was having difficulty because partially because I'm homeless, but the voices wouldn't let me concentrate. And this morning, what did I get from the voices? I don't know, something mean. To me, totally unnecessary, but whatever. Anyway, so I deleted a segment where I was watching Riddick 2013 and kind of trying to do a goofy recording. But typically YouTube doesn't like, copyrighted material. You can specify, that it's copyrighted material and that you have no intention of making money off of it. And then it could still get banned in certain countries, so it's better, for me not even bother trying to post it. It was more for fun than anything anyway, so. We got one ciggy left. I'm normally not a smoker. That's the weird thing is, I normally, most of my life, yuck. Smoking is yucky for me, and I always imagine, I think I got close to a smoker's face and you could smell, it was really strong smell, and I'm like, God, if this is what it's like to be with a smoker, I wouldn't want to kiss, kissing a smoker is like kissing an ashtray, man. It's just so nasty. So anyway, and I lost some teeth in my upper right side, partially due to grinding. and not being able to have access to dental services that I can actually afford. Here they typically charge, I think, $1,000 per extraction. In the States, it can be free depending on your on certain factors. Yui, who I had mentioned in my ex from Thailand, she was HIV positive. I don't know now, she may be able to get decent medicines to suppress it beyond detection. But she was able to get free extractions not far from where we were living. So it really depends on your situation. Like here, like I said, I think they charge about 1,000 pesos per, which is around 20 US per extraction. There, you can get it done for free. The problem with that is you end up with a bunch of gaps in your gum line. It's not very attractive, Not that it matters, but I mean, for a lot of people, they don't want to, smile and show a bunch of gaps in their mouth. Some people don't mind that, some people are comfortable with that, which is probably better that, they can just accept things the way they are and move on with their life. In the States, generally speaking, people have pretty good dental care and can get braces, and if their family can afford it, and to keep their teeth straight, and molar extractions if they need it, if they're not of Asiatic descent. Typically, Asians don't need it, but Caucasians do. I had to have, since I'm, I have European heritage. All 4 molars had to be removed as soon as they, start showing crowning or whatever, start showing poking through the skin. They recommend extraction. So I had all 4 pulled, even though 2 were still below flesh. 2 were showing, or 2 were coming out. I can't remember if it was the bottom 2 or the top 2, and I asked them just to yank them all out at the same time. So they put me under with nitrous oxide, and it was all over before I even knew it. And I can't remember if mom's or the family insurance took care of that or what, but not braces. Not braces. It's typically treated separately. You got to be, like I said, well-to-do to be able to afford that, no matter what country you're in. Anyway, what were we talking about? Oh, hope's irrational. I don't know. It's a funny name, isn't it? Hope's irrational. It sounds like you're saying, well, hope's totally irrational. No, I'm talking about the number, the irrational number. In binary, 0.10100100001, and so on, which is fairly easy to calculate once you know the pattern in binary. I brought it up on Quora, and I don't know, it seemed to trigger an argument, and I'm like, God, dude, let it go. Anyway, so I apologize, for upsetting the gentleman, and try not to bring up things in Quora that's gonna upset people. Intrigue rather than upset. And so anyway, this morning, I don't, this is like 2 days in a row not feeling good. I had to go upstairs. There's a CR, a restroom upstairs. I had to go upstairs and evacuate the colon because it's my stomach is so easily upsettable. My diet has not been very good. Oh, I was able to get a hold of some peanut butter, but not. It's like as soon as I get a hold of some peanut butter to make sandwiches, and try to find jelly, which is impossible in the Philippines unless you're near a big city like Calbog, and then you can go to a super metro and find jelly in the international section, I suppose, but not away from the large cities. In the province, in the barangay, barangay is a Philippine word for town, and so much of my stay here over the last 8 years has been in the barangay, and not in the province, in the barangay, not in town, not downtown Calbayog. Which, if you have money, you can, have, many conveniences and stuff. Believe it or not, I tried to get medicine for the voices and my delusions several times. I asked my brother, I asked my best friend in Australia. We went to junior high together. We've known each other for over 40 years. Neither one of them lifted a finger to help me get medicine. And I asked an acquaintance downtown twice. The second time he threw me in detention for God knows, non-existent God knows what reasons. Maybe he felt threatened or something. All I know is that, I'm begging for help to get medicine, and all of a sudden he's forcing me into detention. And it was just totally insane and retarded. And the last few months have been, me trying to cope with shit like that, and my phone constantly being stolen, or someone trying to smash it onto the highway, for unknown, ungodly, satanic, unknown reasons. There's a lot of shit in my life that just is kind of inexplicable. Like some guy just on a motorcycle passing me by, and I'm on my way to Manipis Norte at that time. I didn't feel like I couldn't go home. Visit, at least for a visit anyways. And there was a friend there, an acquaintance that gave me daily, bread and coffee. Again, I'm homeless for over 2 years now. And for most of that time period, people didn't seem to care. Mostly, especially my ex, who, officially she's my wife because they don't allow a divorce in the Philippines, but so for some people it's invalid, because they don't allow divorce in the Philippines. But anyways, and it's not like it's not like they put it on international broadcast, so it's not like it matters overseas anyways, but it's the principle of the thing. I shouldn't have gotten married in the first place. She's too young for me. I don't know why. I felt compelled to get married. I suppose possibly like Arthur, my son, with the Chinese Thai woman, I didn't want the child to be illegitimate. I wanted the child to be born in a marriage, so that the child wouldn't have the stigma of being illegitimate or a bastard child. So there's certain sort of legal reasons that to do things. It's kind of a stupid. If that's the only reason to get married, that is a stupid reason. But especially in the Philippines, where you can't get a divorce, cannot. Anyway, I've been, while I'm homeless, it's like for over 2 years now, at least over 2.5. I'm thinking more like 3, 2020, or I don't know. Anyways, I lose track. I'd have to figure it out. 2019, 2020, 2021. Mom passed away in October of 2021, I think, so 2021, 2022, 23, So I guess about 2 years ago, my mother passed away, and I was homeless before then. Um, and generally speaking, miserable. Not able to find food. At one point, when I contacted my wife at that, the Philippine one, I'm like, can I please come back? Can I please go home? Because I was, homeless and where we met, Makati. And I'm like, can I please come home? And she says, what are you bored? And I'm like, bored? I can't get food. What are you talking about, bored? I'm homeless. How can a homeless person be bored when they're desperate to find food? Her attitude toward me was really fucked up, man. Fucked up and bullshit. All right, so I kept pressing the point at that time, around 2 years ago. I kept pressing the point, look, I could come there with police and they'd force you to accept me. And when I said that, she said, all right, and this is in text, of course, not a verbal telephone conversation, because these days it's all text, right? Like through Facebook Messenger. Anyway, so I said, look, I could come there with police and force you to accept me, because it's the house I paid for. And she says, I have a boyfriend, don't come back. And I'm like, oh my God. So right away, imagery, my mind, is he sleeping in in our bed? Is he, what's going, just tell me exactly what's going on so I can know where I stand, and she wouldn't say. She just said that I have a boyfriend, don't come back. And I'm like, okay. At that time, my friend in Australia, the one I knew from junior high, his name is Doug. And he's the one. Well, anyways, I'll maybe tell that later. He was actually helping me with 3,000 pesos a month, which is pretty good. It's around 60 US. That was helping me because I was able to get this gay guy that wanted to have sex with me. He let me have a phone, like a secondhand phone that he wasn't using. It didn't have an audio capability, but I didn't need that. And it worked with earbuds or headphones anyway, so. The problem with the battery, eventually the battery went bad, and I couldn't get my friend Doug to help me replace it. Could not. At some point, I'm like, I'm going south. I don't like being homeless in the big city because it's just too awkward and uncomfortable. It doesn't matter that that's where I met her, my ex. Not too far from where we met. So at some point, either Doug or my brother, or at some point, somebody gave me enough money to get the hell out of there, get out of the big city. Homeless in the big city is not good, man. Homeless in the big city, unless you can get regular food. The thing is, at that time was lockdowns with coronavirus, and they had stopped delivering food. So what am I supposed to do? There was a couple other homeless people, three other homeless there in the parking lot right across from a famous old church in Manila, Makati, Manila, St. Peter and Paul Catholic Church, like a historic site. So we were in the parking lot, but anyways, and then Doug told me, I think he informed me that would be the last of the money. It was after like 5 months of helping me, of about 3,000 pesos a month. It sounds like a lot, but it's not. It's, like I said, it's 60 US. And I was just, it was not about food. It was just like phone load and shit like that. so I could communicate with Doug and write articles at the time. At the time, I think I was publishing about things like, anyways, God is dead and there is no soul. I don't know. That was 2 years ago. That's my point. I don't know. So I made it down to a place called Ginbarokan, which is one of the few places where I actually felt safe or comfortable here in the Philippines. So it was sort of natural for me to go there from Makati, Manila, which is for me not comfortable and not safe. So I went to Ginbarokan, which is a very small, almost like a resort town in the Philippines. It's on an island called Tagapuan. The thing is, from there, what I call internal venuing and the voices just went absolutely fucking ape crazy shit. It's just changing from the parking lot of of that Catholic church down to Ginbarokan. I don't know. It's like opening a can of worms, psychic, or in my mind. I don't like to use that word psychic anymore because it has no meaning to me. But in my mind, seemed like the move for my safety was a good thing, but for my mental health, maybe not so good, and because my mind went on a series of rampages of delusions. I became like I think I mentioned before in a previous essay. In my mind, I was a heavenly, what is it? Like a heavenly journalist. I was so extremely delusional because Grace was still refusing, and I didn't want to keep bothering her. And I kept praying for, the whole time I was in Makati. I was praying for Grace's happiness and fulfillment, and because I felt it was the right thing to do. Pray for others, pray for your enemies, blah blah blah. So the whole time I was trying to pray, praying for Grace and her happiness and fulfillment, and hoping that my life would improve. After that, by focusing on others. And even in Ginbarokan, I was still praying for happiness and fulfillment. So another 5 months there and doing that same thing, praying for Grace and her happiness and fulfillment. And eventually she got pregnant with another man's baby. And I realized, boom, wow, she must have moved on with her life. And so I get to move on with mine. The thing is, when I decided to go find out the truth, and trying to ask her what's, who's the father? Have you started your life, with this guy? Because in my mind it was a Presbyterian minister, God knows why, or non-existent God knows why. I have no clue why it was a Presbyterian minister, but that's what the voices were telling me. It's like. Anyways, which was totally incorrect as far as I know. I mean, I don't. It could have been, but she wouldn't talk about the father. She refused over and over again to talk about who the father was. So I just had to, in the end, assume it was something really embarrassing that she didn't want to talk about, obviously, and so the thing is. So in the end, she still wouldn't let me go back because her excuse more recently is I want to rent the house. And when I first got there, it was rented, but not anymore. And I'm like, well, now that it's not rented, can I please move back into the house that I paid for? She says, no, I still want to rent it out. And I'm like, so you have no problem with me being homeless? And you don't want to take care of me, and you don't care. You simply don't care about your husband being homeless. For over 2 years. And one excuse after another so that I don't go back. So I finally, it took me a long time, but I finally well, okay. Right in front of our daughter, I said, so, okay, well, on Fiesta, the day, a Fiesta, it's a barangay holiday. On Fiesta there, she said, would you like some food? And I said, no, I'd like to move back into the house that I paid for. She got upset, like, I brought up something that I'm not supposed to talk about. Anyways, so I said, I reacted as a normal person would. I said, okay, you know what? Fuck you. I didn't say that, but, I said, I love you, but you're never, ever going to hear from me ever again, except maybe for the divorce papers. I didn't say that, but I thought it, probably. Anyways, so, it's like, in my life, and it's typical, I have this expression, which is a pretty common American expression. I always get the shit end of the stick. So imagine you got a stick and you're stirring for whatever reason. Maybe you're making compost with the poop, or whatever reason you're stirring shit and with a stick. And you're handing the stick to me, but the shit end. How am I supposed to grab the shit end of the stick? I'm not going to grab the shit end of the stick. So in my life, I always invariably get the shit end of the stick, okay? In other words, the crap, the dregs, whatever, the leftovers, if there's any, whatever, somebody's sloppy seconds, if you know that expression. And the voices don't really help. They don't. Especially when I wake up in the morning and I'm trying to have a decent, not feel like crap physically. Once I go upstairs and try to evacuate my colon, I come back down here to the basement of the barangay hall, and I'm trying to, for lack of a better expression, get my life back. But how can I get my life back with no money? Or respect? Or compassion? Especially from people that should matter, like Grace, my ex. She sent me 1,000 pesos a few months ago, and I have later since then determined, and I thought it was out of compassion. I thought it was because she cared. But as far as I know, it was like stay away money. Here's 1,000 pesos, stay away. And right now the voices are saying, oh Sam, oh Sam, oh Sam. And is it pity or compassion or just, because they don't know what else to say? I mean, yeah, it's, my pathetic life, man. My pathetic life. The thing is, this is the weird part of the story, is that part of the reason that I'm homeless is because I'm always trying to do what I consider is the right thing to do. Always trying to do the right thing. And in my life, in my experiences, and being homeless for over 2 years, what does it show you? Or what should it show me? Trying to do the right thing may not be the best thing for me. Trying to do the so-called right thing may not be the best thing for Salvatore, especially if he's going to end up homeless for an extended period. Part of the reason I left over 2 years ago, my home in Manipis Norte, was to give Grace some peace, so that this crazy man wouldn't be in their face. But that's, again, trying to do the right thing. And then I ended up suffering and suffering and suffering and suffering. The first place I went to was where we got married, Santa Margarita, and it was a fucking nightmare. I really felt like I was in hell, and nobody gave a shit. And then my phone got stolen, right from under my fucking nose. At a resort beach, a beach resort. I mean, after my phone got stolen, this is over 2 years ago, after my phone got stolen in Santa Margarita area, it was just pure hell, man. Pure hell. Pure hell. I lost all my documents, I lost my birth certificate, I lost my passport, I lost everything from that moment on. From that moment on, it was just absolutely pure nightmarish. And that was before Makati. That was before Makati. I got to Makati because what? Oh, people had compassion for me and said, here, I'll give you a free bus ride up to Makati, and the embassy will help you. No, they won't. Not in my experience. They don't give a shit. Unless you got money. And after all these years, after all this time, after these years of being homeless and feeling like nobody cares and the embassy doesn't give a shit, what happened? We find out that there's a repatriation loan available. Why the fuck couldn't they do that 2 years ago? Now it's okay, Sam, okay, Sam, okay, Sam, the voices. One of their more infamous catchphrases from recent history was, this is not how it's going to be. I'm like, this is not how it's going to be. That says nothing. Absolutely says nothing. This is not how, and I was thinking about writing them all down so that, because I could give it to, like a guy or a woman who are breaking up with their boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, and say, use these expressions because they're totally meaningless, and just say, this is not how it's going to be tomorrow. This is not how it's going to be tomorrow. How you feel is not going to be how, this is not how it's going to be tomorrow. Because, these inane expressions that I get from these, and I used to call them legion, but, from a biblical reference, but now I call it, they don't like the label interface, and I'm like, that's what you are. Because when you're being controlled by some external, I thought a long time ago it was the same people, the same people that were, that interacted with so-called St. Paul and the other agents before him. But, it's like, who knows? Who knows, man? Who the fuck knows? And I'm nobody, man. I'm nobody. And why would it be the same, the same aliens that interacted with St. Paul and the rest and made Jesus, seem like a god with his miracles. Okay, Sam, that's what they're saying now. Okay, Sam. So anyway, I used to use the word, my satanic life. Now it's just fucked up, fucked up beyond recognition. I was thrown in, as I said before, I was thrown in detention twice for wrongful accusations. The first one, they made up this lie, because I guess it sounded good, it sounded like something they could throw me in detention for. That they lied, and they said that he was trying to steal my phone. If I was trying to steal your phone, wouldn't I have run away? I didn't. And the second time, thrown in wrongfully in detention, is the American acquaintance claimed that I was trying to gain entry. And if I had tried to gain entry, I would be fucking through the fucking door. Okay, I would have thrown my body at the door and busted through like that. Okay, that would have been me, trespassing. Okay, not a knock on the door, man, asking for help to get medicine. So I was not trying to gain entry, okay, or attempted trespass, which is a false charge as well. I was simply trying to get medicine, for the delusions, for the voices. As I said, I begged my brother, I begged my friend in Australia, who I've known for over 40 years. They just basically ignored the request. When I begged at the hospital, they pretended like it's unavailable, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you? You can treat physical stuff, but you don't have the capacity. You don't have any psychiatrists. You don't have any psychiatric medicines. You have zero. I mean, where are all your psychiatrists? Where's your, you don't have psychiatric medicines to treat mental illness? I mean, as you can hear right now, I don't sound very crazy, but as you can hear in my voice right now, I don't sound very crazy, but I was, just a few months ago. Just a few months ago, I was, and no one was helping me. I mean, for a long, long time, not just intermittent. I mean, continuously insane, continuously delusional, continuously framing things in a delusional context with, fictional characters like Mary, Queen of Heaven. Right now at this moment, I don't feel crazy. I don't. But I was for the longest time. And the way people treated me was like, oh, we know you're crazy, but we can't give you any medicine because it's unavailable. And there are no psychiatrists on staff. They're all overseas making more money, sending money to their parents. Because that's the better way to make money for their families, is working overseas. I mean, it sounds insane. You're saying that a modern hospital in the Philippines, like in Calbayog, a public hospital, Calbayog District Hospital, where I was at, has no psychiatrists at all, and no psychiatric medication at all? you know, for the majority of the last 2 years, before just a few weeks ago, and before like 5 weeks, before 5 weeks ago, for the majority of the last 2 years, let's say, I don't know, let's crank it back like 2 or 3 months. Before 2 or 3 months ago, for over 2 years, my brother didn't seem to care. And he seemed to be pushing it off onto Grace. Like, Grace needs to take care of you. The thing is, she won't. And she expects him to take care of me. So when, if my brother in the States expects my wife to take care of me, which that seemed to be the case for over 2 years, your wife should be taking care of you. Yeah, I know that, but she's not. I mean, it was implied. It was implied the whole time. But he was acting like, I'm not going to lift a finger to get you out of there. You're the one who, you dug your hole, you get out of it. And I'm like, how the fuck am I supposed to get out of this hole being homeless? Anyways, for the longest time, my brother didn't seem to care. He didn't seem to care. And he's the only one left in my family. Every Filipino I talk with in the last few years, they're like, I mean, not recently, but for most of that time, they're like, what about your family in the States? Well, it's just, I'd have to explain over and over again. I only have one brother. What about your cousins? What about your aunts and uncles? We don't care the way that Filipinos do. Okay, we're not an extended family in the States. We barely talk to each other. I don't have their emails. My cousins are still alive, but we don't communicate, and they don't care that their cousin is homeless in the Philippines. They don't care if I'm alive or dead. Why should they? We haven't talked for years. The ones that are my age, Sam and Dottie, we haven't talked for years. Why should they care? There's this Filipino talk show host. He's like a problem solver, give it to him. I forget his name, but he's a pretty famous guy in the Philippines. And everyone, if they talk with me long enough, they say, hey, you should get him to help you. And I'm like, I tried. Okay, I tried to communicate with him through Facebook, and I was ignored. Okay, obviously not going to happen that way. Doesn't your family care? Look, I only have one brother, and for the longest time, he seemed like he didn't care. Now all of a sudden, he's ready to spring for a ticket, and I'm like, don't tell the embassy that, because they'll reject the repatriation loan. They'll cancel the request. And then what? Then are they going to push for immigration to allow me to leave? Like extradition, but not exactly, not with such heinous connotations. It's a removal order. That's what they're officially calling it, a removal order. Remove me from the Philippines. Well, from my perspective, allow me to leave. Get a job in the States and try to support myself. For the longest time, that's all I prayed for, and the prayers went unanswered. All I get in response is crazy, insane verbiage, internal crazy verbiage and crazy internal venuing. That's what I get from my prayers. fairly recently I found in this barangay here, I found the corner of a $1 bill, and then I cut my thumb purposefully and put blood on it. Blood money. What does blood money mean, typically? Well, it means that typically a murder was carried out, and the money was like payment, blood money. Payment for services rendered, like a mafia killing or whatever. And I'm the kind of person that tries to figure out, like in Ginbarokan, one of the voices was asking me, what do you think about Bahrain? I don't know anything about Bahrain. Why are you asking me about Bahrain? I don't know anything about Bahrain. And I was not allowed, it seemed to be, to even watch the news. Much of that time period. Grace at one point allowed me to see the news. It was a treat, to sort of catch up after so many months of not having any news at all about the outside world, because Filipinos don't give a shit don't seem to care about the outside world. They're happy, in their own little spread out archipelago. Mindlessly blissful with respect to the outside world. You ask them about Ukraine, even today, it's like, well, I don't know what's going on in Ukraine. The only person I know that actually cares about that kind of stuff is an Australian friend of mine who lives up north, a little bit north from here, walking distance. He's a pretty cool guy, pretty cool man. But see, right now I'm trying to visualize his home and I can't. My cognition issues. But he's a pretty cool man. And we had some incredible conversations, which I felt was like, I don't know, like at the time we were having the conversations, I felt like we were both being accessed. I mean, I was asking him questions and he was responding to me as to, not just from his perspective, but from like well, at the time anyways, I thought he was being like sort of accessed, and maybe not, who knows, perhaps not, but that was my misperception at the time. Always like I said, in the last over 2.5 years, totally delusional framing, totally delusional perspective, and imagining all these things that were not happening. But I get beat up from time to time because, it seems like people can and get away with it. Even barangay officials can beat me up at public events. And they get away with it because they can. I've been beat up by barangay officials. I've been beat up, left for dead, pretty much in detention the first time. Beat up by acquaintance, relative. Evidently at the wrong place at the wrong time, and I just get beat up. And of course, like I said, in a delusional framing, thinking that I'm, doing God's will, non-existent God, and paying a heavy price tag for it. So anyway, my internet, my cellular internet I'm not allowed, what do you call it? My cellular internet doesn't have the bandwidth to be able to upload these videos, so I have to log into this piece of Wi-Fi, which is like it's a per coin, like per 5 pesos, you get 1 hour. With 10 pesos, maybe you get 2 hours or 3 hours. I think there's a bonus for the 10 pesos, something like that. And maybe an hour bonus for 10 pesos. But I'm down to 1 peso right now. 1 peso. 1 peso and 5 centimos. which is pretty much valueless to Filipinos. I think it's worth 0.1 cents or something like that. Remember I was saying before in an earlier segment, I said life's a bitch and then you die, but I said I don't like that expression because it's pretty lethargic. It's pretty it's like a lackadaisical attitude about life. You know, life's a bitch and then you die. You know, if I told my story to someone and that's an American and that's their final bottom line is life's a bitch and then you die, man, and I'm like. Is that you're gonna if you were me, you would not put up a fight? If you were me, you would just say that at the end, or would you want to actually get your life back? Well, I'm obviously not going to be able to get my life back here in the Philippines. Every time I try to get a job, it's really clear to me that it's not going to happen. I could be a driver. Technically speaking, I could be a driver here, as long as I'm not, drinking right before the job, right before the shift starts. And it should be technically it should be okay. But the thing is, they're never going to hire me, especially with this current attitude. Like they're never going to hire me. But the thing is. Even though I knock and knock and knock and knock and knock and knock, and I get thrown in detention for knocking on the wrong door, and knock and knock and knock, metaphorically speaking, about trying to get a job, it never happens. Whether it's Thailand or the Philippines or New Zealand, I can't get a job overseas. The only job I could get in Korea was English conversation teacher, and that was because the previous person did something improper, and they either got fired or just left the job. Who knows what they did? Maybe they slept with a student. Who knows? The thing is, that job was also weird in the sense that there was all this kind of fucking intrigue. I was treated special for whatever reasons, well, this conversation teacher, he's like one of us, or he acts like one of us, and he's got a club, a circle, what do you call it? He's got a club of students who really like him, and so that I was different, but it was weird different, not necessarily good different. In the end, when my students knew that I wasn't, was not coming back, they did not renew my contract. The excuse from the principal was too many complaints from parents, okay, evidently. Maybe it was just one, maybe one too many, Like the only time that I ever got fired in the States, legitimately fired in the States, was Chariot. Because I slammed on the brakes. I was going through an intersection. I didn't see the guy because he was right behind my rearview mirror, a pedestrian, and he wasn't watching because he was on his device. And so I slammed on the brakes and didn't, let the pedestrian cross in front of me before completing my left turn. And the lady in the front, she got upset and she made a complaint and basically got me fired. One complaint. Combine that with what? I backed into a light post. It was so fucking tight in the parking lot in San Francisco. In the parking lot where they kept the vehicles, it was so packed and so tight. You're invariably either going to scrape another vehicle on the left or right side. So in trying to avoid that, I bumped into the fucking light post or lamp post behind and popped a rear lens over like a parking brake light. And the insurance is not going to cover that, so we have to let you go. Besides, we have that one complaint. by that time, I had sufficient funds to what? Hold on a second. Well, I was still homeless at that time. Yeah, I was in Richmond homeless, but I had a driving job because of the generosity of a pastor who loaned me sufficient money to get locked into a consumer rape thing. It was an agreement between Hertz Rent-A-Car and Lyft, and they were providing these two expensive vehicles, too expensive to rent, and they probably didn't have any other way to do it except through suckers like me, who were good Lyft drivers in California, excellent Lyft drivers, but at the same time being raped by the system, by having to pay these exorbitant fees for the rental. And you didn't have your choice about the rental. You can't get a Prius that's good on gas. Of course not, because they're unavailable. No, you got to get a gas guzzler that, a modern gas guzzler that's comfortable for the passengers, and it has to be able to hold 5 people, right? 3 in the back and, well, the driver and the right passenger in the front. So maximum capacity is should be 5, right? So even if you have your own vehicle, which I tried, and I'm begging my brother, can you please give me a loan so I can get my own vehicle? And nope, you're not welcome at home and I can't give you the loan. I'm like, well, why am I not exactly welcome at home? I didn't ask that question, but I should have. Eventually I had enough money at one point after living homeless in Richmond for several months. And Grace said, just go back. And she had the right idea. I showed up on the doorstep. Mom was still alive at that time, back in the late teens, I think 2018, 2019, around there. And she said, who are you? Your son? So yeah, it sucks to be me, man. It really sucks with a capital S. And I have this expression: I wouldn't wish my life on my worst enemy, because it's really, 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 especially when you consider the internal, what I call the internal venuing. It's satanic, man. It's fucking satanic. It's fucking satanic. When you start including the internal venuing, it's satanic. There's no other word that's appropriate. It's satanic. Externally, it's really bad. Okay, like I said, periodically getting beat up by people that shouldn't beat me up, but do because it seems like they can get away with it. I try to do that kind of, if I try to do what happened to me to other people, especially Filipinos, I'd be in jail for so long, they'd throw away the key, man. If I tried to do to Filipinos what they've done to me, I'd be in jail forever. So I've had to basically swallow it, and like I said, the stupid part, the really idiotic, insane part of the story is, like I said, I imagined I was doing God's will the whole time. And of course I just, I sucked it up, man. Because I thought I was doing God's will. Of course, what's the Jewish expression? The more you suffer, the more God loves you. The more you suffer, the more that God loves you. Bull crap. It's an idiotic belief, and an outdated, idiotic belief system. And I'm not just talking about Judaism, I'm talking about everything. As far as I know, on the planet, there's only one type of person that has any semblance of awareness about what's actually going on this planet, and that's atheistic psychiatrists. Atheistic psychiatrists who don't believe in a God, who don't believe in ESP, who don't believe in any of that kind of crap, bullshit, or spiritualism, or anything like that, not even animism, nothing. No supernatural belief system. The only person on the planet who has an accurate idea about what's actually going on is an atheistic psychiatrist. An atheistic psychiatrist. Because they have experience, they know from their work experience that people have all kinds of delusions. And especially that they don't attach it to any kind of spiritual or religious significance. They know how fucking delusional their patients can be, and that those same patients can drive them insane if they don't have a therapist themselves. I went back and forth, and when I bring up PhDs or MDs, psychiatrists have to have an MD and typically a PhD in psychology, typically. So typically they're a PhD and an MD. So anytime I do that, I'm of course reminded of PhDs in physics. And recently, I don't think it's going to change, man. I do not think it's going to change. And this is how I used to see them, except not so religiously. In the past, I thought they were working for the devil and trying to delude believers into a satanic cult called physics. Now it's more like it's similar, but it's different. They're just as delusional to me now. It's not necessarily a satanic cult. It's just a cult. It's like a club. It's like a club. It's like a club. You suck enough people's dicks, or you lick enough assholes clean, and kowtow to the establishment enough. They're convinced that you're one of them. So Or babble on about one of their nonsensical fake things, fake ideas like the Higgs. The Higgs is God. It's the God particle. It's the God particle. If I wrote essay after essay after essay, different ways to. The Higgs is the God particle. It defines everything, especially the beginning. It's the God particle. So PhDs in physics now they're no longer satanic with minions, they're just idiots. They're just fucking idiots, supported by a convention to toe the status quo, man, toe the status quo. The probabilistic interpretation, the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics. So no, I don't, when I'm talking about rational people on the planet, like atheistic psychiatrists, I am not including physics PhDs because they're just as delusional as a Catholic priest, just a different way. So anyway, that's enough for now.